This is the CBS News special report. I'm John Dickerson. The criminal cases, against former FBI Director James Comey and New York Attorney General Letitia James have just been dismissed. Comey was charged with giving false statements to Congress back in 2020 and obstruction of justice. He pleaded not guilty. James, who also pleaded not guilty, was charged with bank fraud and making false statements to a financial institution. The case was being prosecuted by Trump-appointed U.S. Attorney Lindsey Halligan, who has never tried a criminal case. A Virginia federal judge found Halligan was illegally appointed to the role. Let's start with Justice correspondent Scott MacFarlane. Scott, the judge's ruling, illegally appointed to the role, what does that mean?
Yeah, these two very high-profile criminal defendants made a series of arguments to get their cases dismissed. They both think they're politically motivated cases, vindictive prosecutions, that there was some form of problem with the grand jury as well. That's not what this is. This ruling is that the prosecutor on the case, Lindsey Halligan, who 2 months ago was a Trump White House aide, was not lawfully in the position of U.S. attorney, and therefore the cases must collapse. And they're dead for now, John. They're both dismissed without prejudice, which means they can be refiled, but it's going to be complicated for James Comey. His case is beyond the statute of limitations of 5 years. What the judge is saying here is that Lindsey Halligan is not in the position lawfully because there's a 4-month window in which you could have an acting U.S. attorney serving as top prosecutor. That window closed September 22nd. Therefore, Halligan is not to be the U.S. attorney unless judges choose her to be. What's more, John, in this unique scenario, Lindsey Halligan is the only prosecutor whose name is on the James Comey case and on the Letitia James case. She's the only one who would sign her name to it, the only one who presented to the grand jury. If she's not there lawfully, there's no second chair. There's no backup. Therefore, the cases are dismissed without prejudice as of today.
And, Scott, when a judge dismisses a case without prejudice, is that it? Any more we could glean from the judge in terms of any insight into what led to this decision?
Yeah, the judge emphasized that point I just mentioned, John, that because Lindsey Halligan's the only prosecutor on the case, there's no other place to go here other than dismissal. Yes, the Department of Justice can try to bring this case back against Letitia James, perhaps with a different set of prosecutors. With James Comey, it's going to be complicated. They're past the statute of limitations. This may be fatal to his case. And these two defendants, John, never had a chance to argue the merits of the case or fight their case on the facts alleged. They're just making a process issue here, but it seems to be a successful one.
And briefly remind us, Scott, of why the process led to a Lindsey Halligan appointment rather than the standard way of approaching these kinds of things.
Yeah, there was a Trump appointee in that job in September. He did not move forward with these controversial cases against Comey and James. He was ousted. Lindsey Halligan was installed. Her first orders of business on the criminal docket were these two cases, among others.
All right, Scott MacFarlane, thank you so much. We now go to senior White House correspondent Weijia Zhang. Weijia, we know that President Trump had a keen interest in these two cases. Has there been any reaction at the White House yet to this announcement?
John, as of right now, we have not heard from the White House or directly from President Trump, who, you're right, certainly expressed how he felt about these two cases in the days leading up to the indictments of both Comey and James. In fact, he posted on Truth Social on September 20th, just 5 days before Comey was indicted. And it seemed to be a direct message to Pam, meaning Pam Bondi, who was, of course, the Attorney General of the United States, in which Trump said he had reviewed over 30 statements and posts saying that essentially same old story as last time, all talk, no action, nothing is being done. What about Comey, Adam Shifty Schiff, Letitia, question mark, question mark, question mark. They're all guilty as hell. And of course, he goes on to explain why he believes they are guilty, all of these people being his people that he considers to be political foes. And in the past, John, he has called for their prosecution, too. The reason why this particular post is notable is not only because the timing, but because there were questions later about whether the president meant to make them public or whether they were supposed to be a direct message to the attorney general, which later he denied. So at this hour, we have not heard yet about Trump's reaction. But, John, you can imagine that it will be one of disappointment and frustration, since he has spent so much time claiming that the only reason that he himself was investigated by these two law enforcement officials was because of a witch hunt. That's according to Trump. John?
All right. Thank you so much, Weijia Zhang at the White House. Criminal defense attorney Caroline Polisi is with us on the phone. Caroline, your reaction to this determination by the judge?
Yeah. Hi, John. I wanted to pick up something that Scott mentioned. This is not a complete victory for Comey, to be sure, because it was dismissed without prejudice. They were looking for a dismissal with prejudice. However, this is seriously going to set this prosecution. It's going to really derail the prosecution, and the person bringing this prosecution next, if they do, will not be likely Lindsey Halligan. The sixth finding in Judge Curry's order is that the power to appoint the interim U.S. attorney for the Eastern District of Virginia under the statute lies with the district court. Remember, this judge is sitting by designation from South Carolina, because the district in which the case is pending, all of those judges recused themselves, essentially, because that was the overarching issue in this appointment, whether that 120 days could effectively just be re-upped by the president and Pam Bondi indefinitely for, essentially skirting the appointments clause. And so while it's not, a complete and total victory, I think this case is not going to go to trial anytime soon, not to mention the myriad of other substantive issues that are in this case that are pending before a different judge in this district regarding, the selective and vindictive prosecutions, issues with the warrants, a ton of ways this cookie could crumble.
Right. Caroline Polisi, thank you. I want to go back now to Scott MacFarlane. Scott, among any new information you may also have, remind us how, put in context, the idea of a president telling an attorney general who they should and should not charge.
A lot of people were eager to hear the arguments and the judge's opinion on this issue of vindictive prosecution. Last week, James Comey was in court, remarkable thing, arguing that this case was a political selective prosecution. That argument really isn't relevant anymore now that the case is dismissed. Not relevant to this case, but John, there are any number of political critics of the president who fear they face the same prospect of a criminal prosecution because of their criticism. They might have wanted to have seen what a judge said about this issue of selective vindictive prosecution if they, too, get charged in the coming weeks and the coming months. As Weijia mentioned, John, there's another name on that September 20th social media post from President Trump. California Senator Adam Schiff, who CBS News has learned has hired a private attorney with the prospect he gets charged down the road as well. All of these defendants, all these people have denied any wrongdoing.
Scott MacFarlane, a major bend in the road here for the Trump presidency and Justice Department as we learn the new rules under which both are operating. Once again, the federal indictments against former FBI Director James Comey and New York Attorney General Letitia James have just been dismissed. A judge ruled prosecutor Lindsey Halligan was improperly appointed. Our coverage will continue on CBS News 24/7, your local news, and tonight on the CBS Evening News. This has been a CBS News special report. I'm John Dickerson.